Hi, everybody. So yeah, we're hoping to get a lot out of this talk as well. So because the OARS project, which is the Open Analytics Reference System, we're going to call it OARS, but that's what it is in its beginning stages. And so one of the things that we're hoping to get out of this is to find out what you need. What are your data questions? What are the things that you need from this system? We have the existing insight system to work from, and so we could reproduce that. But if it's fundamentally not that useful for you, then there's no reason for us to reproduce the charts that are in there. And so finding out what it is you're actually looking for is very important to us. So if you want to put in your questions and the things you're looking for into that bit.ly link, that'd be great. You're also welcome to follow along with the slides. And we have a demo that we're going to be getting to a little bit later. It's an ordinary Open edX LMS system that you can go into and navigate through the beloved demo course. And the data that you're putting in there will flow into the analytics system, so we can see that when we do the demo. But yeah. Ooh, late breaking news. Love it. This talk's full of it. So this is our talk on how to navigate your data lake with OARS. And so we're going to start with some introductions, just a bit briefly. So I am Jill Vogel. I'm an open source engineer with OpenCraft, and OpenCraft's contribution to the Core Committers program is what's funded my part of this project. I'm also a scuba diver. That's me with my dad. He learned to dive after age 70 so that he could dive the Great Barrier Reef with me. So that's why he's in there. And
I'm Brian Messick. I work at Axim as of a couple of hours ago. TCRL for 6 months or so before that. Basically, this is what I've been doing with my time at TCRL, is trying to figure out what's up with analytics and make it better. Before that, I was at edX for about 5 years. I worked on the data engineering team. I worked on the platform team, and had a little brief 6-month stint in between of working in radiology, artificial intelligence, identifying problems with DICOM data. But before we start talking about OARS, we should talk about the elephant in the room, which is that right at the beginning of the conference, it was announced that Tutor has been taken over, and Karen is going to possibly be open sourced, yeah? And the default in the system. We're not sure yet how that's going to impact the OARS system. I haven't had time to buttonhole Regis. He's been a little busy this week, but hopefully we'll get some time to talk about it and see how we can get some synergy there and probably work together. We have a very similar tech stack. We start the same and we end kind of the same, and it's the whole middle that's different. But we're going to talk about that, and the way these things go. We have an open source community that's driven by the community. Sometimes the community drives, and we're really excited to work together on that going forward.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's me. Oh, hi. So yeah, as we mentioned before, the OARS system is the Open Analytics Reference System. So it is open in that all of the tools that we've chosen to use for the components are open source and configurable. You can deploy them anywhere. It's analytics in that we're talking about data that's being transformed into analytics data, and it's a reference system. So it is not the only way to do it. It's basically just our best recommendations for how we think this should be done, and that idea will change over time. If you have a system that needs to scale larger than what we've planned for, you can use larger components in between. You can add in more things in between the pipeline if it helps your performance or helps you meet your needs. This is made to be modular and made to be extensible.
All right, so where are we at? This is kind of our introduction to OARS. We've done a bunch of technical discovery, talked to 20-odd people about their data needs. We did some text selection, prototyping. What you're going to see today is kind of a vertical slice of, can this work end-to-end? Yeah. Is it going to be pretty? No. Is it something that I would suggest that you run today? No, don't do that. But we're going to be collecting all of the feedback from the people in this room. Secretly, this is a product talk. I don't know if anybody knows that. But we're actually hoping to get all of this information that we're getting from the slides and from everybody in here to pull you together and come up with a real solution, because this is basically like our Stack Overflow wrong answer that generates all the correct answers. We want to hear from you. Let's make it good. So yeah, we've got 22 event types. Those are the things that are provided by the event routing's backend that takes the tracking log events and converts them into XAPI statements. At this time, that's what we've got. It represents a big chunk of the data that people actually care about. But over time, we're going to be growing that number and adding new things and adding the ability for people to add their own XAPI transforms on top of tracking log events that can be generated from whatever you plug into your system. The next little bit, we're working on getting course structure data into the ClickHouse database. We need it. That's where all the names of the X blocks are, and without it, everything is real ugly, as you're going to see. Looking at X block IDs isn't going to be very helpful for anyone. We actually have it working, but not merged into edX platform. The PR is in flight. We're going to be adding more events. We're going to be adding more reports, because these are just the reports that Jill and I threw together in the last minute flying into this conference on fire. And everything that we learn from this is going to be gathered back into the system, and we're going to keep going. And then we're hoping by the end of this year to have a kind of V2 version that is using the superset API to expose data back to the CMS, so that you can see this is your most watched video, or this is the most watched segment of your video, or this is the problem everybody gets wrong. Maybe you wrote your problem wrong. And additional enrichment. So, the course structure follows a separate path from the learner traces. It's data that gets pushed at course publish time into the ClickHouse database. Similar things that we would like, such as user demographic data that's not a learning trace, but we'd like to know. We could get that the same way. We don't really want to have direct exposure to the LMS database where possible. Oh, and the message bus, but that's just a little thing. That's coming soon too. We'd like to be able to get the resiliency and speed improvements that we would get out of using the message bus to send these events from one end to the other. But that's going to take a lot of work. So hopefully the next version.
That's cool. Okay, so yeah, as Brian said, this is a product talk, and so we would like to find out from you. So how many people here are learners on the Open edX system? Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Nice. How many people are educators, writing courses, content? Also good, and great that you're both. That's so cool. Learning designers. Nice, nice. Yeah, you're getting everybody here, all right. Any data analysts, data people? Yay.
Talk to me after.
Yes, yes, definitely. We're gonna need help with those charts. The program administrators, people who want like overall stats about, yeah, good. Yeah, exactly. Site operators, like operations people, yep. So the people who are like, how easy is this to set up? Come on. Any programmers, site developers? Yep, coders. Good. Lovely. Anybody that I didn't hit? Anybody that's like uncategorized? Lurkers?
Yeah.
Anybody? Well, how would you characterize your interaction with the platforms?
I'm a product manager.
Product manager?
Oh, cool. Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Lovely. All right. And so, of the people who have an analytics solution that you guys use, how many people use Insights? Wow. The Insights code base hasn't been touched for years. And I'm sure that is a source of frustration, but that's why we're doing this. Modifying Insights is really hard. And so I'm amazed and kind of awed that y'all are still running with it. That's so good. I'm glad that it still works. How about like Google Analytics? Yeah. I know. This is not going to be Google Analytics. We don't have a Google team, but it's going to be good. How about tools like Cairns? Yay! Yay, Figures. Does anybody use Figures? Any of the other? Yeah, sure. How about homegrown things? Spreadsheets, yeah. And homegrown actual software tools, yeah? Nice, nice, so don't kick it off, that's right. It's excellent. And yeah, anybody doing just like raw database queries and yeah, that's, so you guys are gonna love Superset because you really can get in and do the queries that you need to do and do the visualizations, and then you can take those things and show them to your staff and to all the people who like need to see them. So that's cool, you'll be the power users. All right.
Yeah. So how many students do you support on those systems? We got hundreds.
Hundreds of people?
I assume anybody's got hundreds, right? No? Thousands? Yeah, some thousands. All right. Millions? Few tens of millions? Yeah, I know you're out there. I used to work there. Come on. Okay. So that's a pretty big difference, right? If you're supporting thousands of users and you've got tens of millions, hundreds of millions of users, eventually. That's not going to be the same system that's going to support both people. You're going to need to make some changes. You're going to need to do things a little bit differently. We're focusing right now on the smaller side so that we could start there and build up. There's a slide in here somewhere where I'm begging for people to run this against huge swaths of tracking logs, but we've already got that because Felipe said he's going to do it for me. So now it's on camera. It's done. Yeah. We're hoping to be able to scale that up as time goes by.
Yeah, definitely. And the open source tools that we've selected to work in this pipeline are, we know that large data is going to be part of that, but we also know that Insights does not suit the small providers just because it was so expensive and complex to run, and so trying to kind of bridge that gap. So if anybody, anytime, you can do it now, you can do it later. We are interested to know what kinds of data questions that you have. I think there's a few questions in there right now. What do we got? So people want real-time analytics, which this will do. Not real time, but near real time. It takes a little bit of time for the data to move through the pipe, but you don't have to run batch processes to see it in there. It just goes through.
We'll refer to that as real-ish time, so it's seconds, not hours or weeks, depending on your insights, experiences.
Cool. Will we be able to add our own events? Can I fire a custom event? That is definitely on the roadmap. We know that there are a lot of events coming out of the MFEs, for instance, that are very relevant to learners, and so that kind of thing will need to happen. Will we be able to add our own events? Oh, sorry, I already read that. Easy to use interface to non-technical instructors. Yes, definitely. Ooh, everything's all popping up. That's so cool. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, there will be a dashboard. There is a dashboard, and the charts and things that are in there, people will be able to use. And the more you know about your data, the more you will be able to query and visualize. So it's a pretty good section there. In Watson's.
And one-click install is on there. Currently, it's a little bit more than one click, but everything is a Tutor plugin. We rely extremely heavily on Tutor at this time, but there will be additional recipes added for people who don't use Tutor to be able to do the exact same things that we do on Tutor. It's nothing fancy. It's mostly configuration and making things as one-click as we can.
Yeah, and the nice thing about wrapping everything in Tutor is we found that we could do it. Like, it just worked. It was so good. Yeah, a few weeks, literally, which is great. Filtering results by category. Yes, there's filters. There's the ability to filter by course, filter by sections, filter by all of those things, and yeah, this is good. I think it's time to move on. But yeah, if there's anything specific that you want us to address while we're here, we'll have questions after, or raise your hand and say, "Oi, that's cool." All right. So what is the data landscape? So as Brian mentioned, we've talked to some people about the different kinds of data use cases that people have, and in general they kind of break up into four sort of parts. We know that people have general and specific and detailed and aggregate, shorter and long-term data needs, but yeah, Jenna Mikowski, the senior product manager at Axon, she did a market survey, and it's a really interesting document. We've got links to that at the end if you're interested in looking at the details. But she found that that falls into basically four categories. People are very concerned about PII, as they should be. So protecting learner anonymity and making sure that learner data is kept secure and that access to that is limited to only people who are allowed to see that information. We've got a whole slide on privacy, which we'll talk about that in a second, but at the very least, from the ground, we are building this so that we have the similar kind of course access restrictions that we currently have with Insights. You have to be course staff to see your course's data. Summary statistics like weekly, monthly enrollment counts, your attendance, your engagement, completion, all of that kind of thing is pretty important, but also being able to do aggregate data. Some people care about course level, some people care about organization level, some people care about the whole system. And so that's definitely capabilities that this system will provide. And then learner engagement information, finding out what bits of your content need work, which of your learners need help, all of that, what needs improving. All of those things can be inferred from the XAPI data that's being piped through the system. And we'll have some charts that show some of those basic things. But the best thing about the system, which I can't overstate, is how easy it is to add your own charts and add your own reports. So it's using Apache Superset, which is a known, good, open source, scalable, beautiful tool. So if you know how to use that, or if you're willing to learn how to use that, you can write your own charts. Unlike in Insights, where you had to touch 4 different systems and do all of this crazy coding and processing to add new charts, this is just, it's a dream.
So we mentioned the 22 events that are being transformed currently. These are actually the events that were written up in OEP 26 in 2018, 5 years ago. They're all in there, they're working, but we're planning to expand this quite a bit. These were the things that were kind of identified as most interesting at that time, but from the list of 250 odd tracking log events, which ones are most interesting to you? What else do you want to see? None of them are hard to transform particularly. We just need to know which ones we should do in what order. So that's going to be my big ask from this community is, what do we want to see next?
So as I noted, so we're using Superset. Superset has all kinds of pretty different kinds of charts, different kinds of ways of representing your data, all just built in and working. It really likes to do data over time. And so if you want to track enrollments or activity or usage against your courses over time, it's really good at that. It's the current implementation, like Brian mentioned, we kind of got it sort of working really sort of quickly to get this demo running. So it's not exactly perfect yet, but the data is there and the plan is there, and these charts will be cleaner when it becomes production ready. You guys were talking about hiring some BI experts, in fact, to create charts. And so if anybody's got particular needs or particular things that you're going to want to build, it would be good to get those on that list.
Yeah, I think TCRL's really interested in doing a funded contribution. So if anybody knows any BI experts in the space that are really interested in XAPI and learning data and can do magic with those things, send them our way, because there's only a few of us at Axum, so we could use the help.
But yeah, you can do pretty things. One of the things that literally took, 2 hours, 3 hours, was a chart to show problem difficulty. So all this is basically doing is saying how many attempts were made against each problem for correct answers. We could do the minimum, the maximum, and the average. And so you can get an idea of which problems are taking an awful lot of attempts before people see them correct. There's lots and lots of video events, and one of the big questions that we have is, what do you guys want to know from your video events? Basically, anybody who does anything with a video, we get an event for it. And so we can do things like figure out which segments of the videos get watched the most, which segments get skipped, that kind of thing. if that's of value to you, if that tells you what videos you should be recreating or reproducing, that's cool. If nobody uses that stuff, we don't really want to build it. And so I'm really kind of interested in finding out, what do you want to know from videos? Cool. Oh, and we have course structure. So thanks to the course graph extension, we have like really beautiful graph oriented data of like what the course structures and things are. So you could do pretty tree looking charts as well. And yeah, there's admin dashboards. So we'll have, what we'll probably end up doing, and like what we've started doing, is basically building a supported OpenEdX dashboard that has supported OpenEdX charts in it. But you can add your own dashboards. You can create views for your particular users and create your own charts. And that those will persist as you do updates and everything. And if we have new things that we want to add to ours, then we'll add them in there, and you can choose to use those or not.
And then you can export yours and share them with the rest of the community, so you should do that.
Yes.
They work, send them on.
Yeah, the sharing aspect of it is pretty amazing too. So we will be doing that. So on to the architecture.
Sure. So what is OARS? It's just a bunch of configuration of existing systems at the end of the day. It's important that we understand kind of the level of work that went in before the OARS technology, everything from the tracking log events to event routing backends. And that's really, and Tutor and all the things that we use, because it's really just glue. But due to the way that it's all set up, it's near real-time data pipeline. It's seconds from learner event to the dashboard, which I'll show you in a minute. And it's used to enable data exploration and reporting, which means learners will have row-level access to their courses and the ability to create their own charts and the ability to explore via SQL anything that they want to do and share those learnings back out. Oh, this is all me. All right, I got a good long one. So here are the technologies that are in play. XAPI, it's the Experience API. It's just an open standard for sharing learning traces, learning data. It's just JSON. It uses kind of the actor-verb-object paradigm, so it's user registered for course. And it's a pretty straightforward way of collecting hierarchical data. But it's being used by a large number of companies and businesses, the US military, and there's a pretty robust environment around it that we hope to be able to leverage moving forward so that we can kind of jailbreak our event log data into the larger world of learning data. The event routing backends, I spoke about this a moment ago. It's an open source plugin for edX platform, written by, mostly by Arbisoft. I think paid for by edX, I'm not sure. But it's been developed and ready for a long time. I'm excited to be able to use it. It supports both XAPI and Caliper events. If anybody has a great desire for Caliper events, let me know. In all of our kind of investigations and talking to folks, nobody really brought it up, so we're not sure about that yet. OARS uses event routing backends to do the XAPI transforms and send them to Ralph, which is an open source collection of tools. And the developers of Ralph are here, so they could correct me if I'm wrong. But tools for storing, retrieving, transforming, and serving up learning log data. It's developed by our friends at OpenFun. It's great fun to work with. They were kind enough to let me put a ClickHouse backend into their software. Whether or not it performs up to standards, we're still waiting to find out, but it's great. So yeah, mostly we use Ralph as the kind of learning record store HTTP interface for accepting these XAPI traces. It does things like dedupe them, make sure that the events are only stored once, which is rather important. and then it stores them in ClickHouse in our configuration. ClickHouse is an analytics database, my new favorite tool. It's open source, column-oriented, very fast, designed to run on commodity hardware. It's kind of what allows us to be able to run this as a kind of one-click tutor environment where we're not having to worry about cloud service providers, vendor lock-in, or any of those kind of issues that you will run into generally with analytics databases. It just works.
And I have to jump in, it is a joy to query. Like, it deals with JSON data really natively, and so you can delve into the data structures and just get exactly the bit of data that you want to get and chart it. So it's been so easy to learn and great.
And at the other end is Apache Superset, which is a data exploration and visualization engine. We'll poke around at it a little bit in a minute, and anyone who's not familiar with it can take a look. If you're familiar with like Tableau, it's similar to that, but open source and a thing that anybody can run anywhere. And that was one of our goals, is we didn't want to lock anybody in on any front.
And as we mentioned before, I'm going to go quickly because I think we're running short on time and we want to show the demo, but we are considering privacy by default. So we know it's not perfect because it can't be, but everything that comes in, and the other reason that XAPI is a great format to use is all of the user identifying information is anonymized. So there's an anonymous ID that gets stored in sorry, correction, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, XAPI allows you to store the actor ID in a few different ways. We actually have a pull request that's waiting for me to thumb it that will allow people to configure our XAPI configuration to use the anonymized ID, which is
it's not by default.
It's anonymized by default right now, but you can't unanonymize it. So for people who have business use cases, for instance, where they have multiple LMSs and they want to connect user data by email address, that's a thing that will be supported this week.
Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, dealing with the access rights, making sure that your course staff can only see their course data and not see all across. That's something that we did proof of concepts for at the beginning and are building in from default from the beginning there. But of course, no perfect privacy. If your data sets are small, you're gonna know who people are. If your data sets are large or not very varied, you're gonna be able to see who people are. And so please respect the fact that this is storing your user data. Take care with it just like you do all the time, everywhere. Oh, okay, so how are we gonna do the demo? So I think we have to like change the monitor thingy to like mirror. And then we will show the demo. All right, all right. So this is Superset. One of the things that we built, the first thing that we built was a single sign-on with OpenNetX. I'm logged in, so this should just go through. Oh, what happened? Did it not believe me? Oh, because it didn't believe me. Seriously, keep those changes. That's what we want. All right, we're logged in. This is Apache Superset. I am an admin user, so I can see all kinds of things. I can see the users, I can see the row-level security stuff, I can create dashboards and charts, run SQL on our databases, I can add new databases, I can do anything. If you're just a global staff member, you can see these things and you can create data sets and charts, but you can't add new databases. So you can't like do like back-end things to add data, but your super users can control which data sets you let people connect to. Your staff member, global staff members can then add things for their course staff. And we've got an admin dashboard that demos some of the cool things that you can do. Some of the cool charts that you can show with that demo course data that we have. If people start like going into the demo course and answering questions and things, then we'll start seeing that information pop up here. There's an auto refresh every 10 seconds, and so that kind of thing starts rocking up. We've also got a dashboard that shows some of the filtering capabilities. So if you want to filter charts by course, you can do that. it does start making these charts a little less interesting because this is demo data, so there isn't very much in there. But basically what I wanted to demonstrate is making these charts connect up with these filters is really, really easy. So I've had, I don't know, like 60 hours or something that I've put into this entire project, and just using this, it was trivial. It was trivial to get to know it. And another advantage of using existing third-party systems is they are production ready and they are robust. And so all we had to do was hook them together. Is there anything in particular you want me to show?
Go back to the admin dashboard.
Yeah. Thunk. You want to see?
Watch the statement count.
Yeah. Is it gonna update? Is it gonna update?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Oh my gosh! Yay!
That's it. That's how long it takes from end to end.
Yeah.
It scales pretty well. We've done a fair amount of load testing on the Ralph to ClickHouse and aggregated query side of things, up to a few billion rows. It's been performant, but we haven't actually put really significant effort into defining what the schemas are going to look like and what the performance characteristics are going to be. It's going to be significantly driven by the feedback we get here. So,
Cool. But yeah, you guys are welcome to log into the demo site and play around. If you want some staff permissions on there so you can play around in Superset, just give us a hoy. All right, so now to get back, keep the changes. Oh, but it's dropped my thing, of course. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Where did it go? This one. Where did it go? This one. Really? Oh, I'm so sorry. Yay. Cool. All right. Sweet. Dink, dink.
all right.
That's you.
Fine. So what isn't OARS? It's not done. We did a pretty fast vertical slice. We put several weeks worth of work into it, both of us doing it part-time. We're pretty happy with the technology selections and are very curious about your use cases and how we can improve. It's not a grading solution. We have grading solutions. You shouldn't be using your analytics data for that necessarily. It's not a web analytics package. Google Analytics is there for that. We're actually in the middle of upgrading Google Analytics, and I hear that there's going to be some extreme enhancements coming down the pipe for Google Analytics in the platform. Yeah, and like I said, it's not ready for huge sites yet. I advise my friends at 2U to hold off a little bit until we can get some more testing around the edge cases and the high volumes of data and get our schemas in place, because you're not going to want to migrate schemas. Yeah, and it's not set in stone. So if any of these technologies is terrible and I don't know about it, come tell me and we'll figure it out. I think we've got a pretty good pipeline, but any piece of the pipeline is pretty easy to swap out if we need to.
So, oh, that's still you.
I'm just going to stay here.
You stay.
So next steps for us, yeah, we're going to work on production configurations, getting those schemas nailed down. Many more events, honestly, like getting the page view events in there is going to be huge. A lot of people are really curious about time on page, time on problem. We can help with that. The community sharing is rough in Superset, I think. Is that?
It exists.
It exists. It's a little challenging. We may be able to contribute back upstream to make that a little bit more smooth for our use cases. And the event bus, we talked about it a little bit. If you missed Robert's talk yesterday, you should go watch it. It's great. There's going to be a lot of changes coming down the pipe for that. But for us, we'd like to be able to send the tracking log events over the event bus to be shared out that way. Event replay is coming soon. That will be probably a management command in an LMS environment to grab a tracking log and replay the entire log file, where we'll be able to transform all the events in the file, dedupe it, and get you caught up if you have some disastrous problem. And yeah, new real-time course data. Like I said, course graph is close for being able to submit directly to ClickHouse. So that's very soon. And we also have a large project coming up for tracking log event cleanup. Anybody who's worked with our tracking logs knows they're a little bit of a mess. They're not versioned. They are sometimes incomplete, not JSON compliant. They get truncated. We're working on all those problems so that we can actually build a reliable system on them going forward, whether it's this or a different one.
And so yeah, next steps, try it out, have a look at the demo, let us know what you think, try to do things, see if you hit any problems, that'd be great. That forum link takes you to the data analytics section of the forum, but you can also reach out on Slack. We've got a data working group. There's a project board, because Brian and Jenna put in a huge amount of time to actually formalize this project and work it out into steps. So you can keep an eye on that and ping us if there's anything you want to do. We've got state of the data working group reports. And so if you just want the high level and just want to keep tabs on things, that's a really good way to do that. And we've got a data meetup tomorrow. So if you want to come and try things out, grill us, tell us what you need, that would be a good time for it too, if you want to do it in person.
There'll be ice cream.
Oh yeah, ice cream. Christine's ice cream. That's right. Huge list of people to thank. Yeah.
I can't name them all, but I appreciate every single one of you.
Absolutely.
The project was not something that we would have been able to throw together in a few weeks without all the hard work of everyone before us, so we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And there's some links to references and repos and things. So we've got Zach, who told us that he was able to set this up from scratch. So it should still work. But yeah, give it a try. Let us know what you think. All right, thank you. And questions?
Yeah. We can start
You
reading
can
questions.
just like rush the stage too.
Yeah, that's fine. You can get high fives.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Hello? He's
Alright,
up there.
This isn't working. Can you just repeat back the question?
Will do.
So the superset gives you the ability to make these charts, and you're looking to expose it to a variety of different people. So for instructors and or admins, is there a way to lock down supersets so you're not exposing them to all the tools, or have you thought about building an interface that reaches out to superset API to get data and puts it on like a panel?
Yeah, that's two pretty sticky questions. So the question is, have we thought about locking down permissions for Superset to make it so that course staff are able to add charts and modify things and turn things off and change things for your entire site? And also, have we thought about building our own front end for this? And the answers are, so as a super user, you can do anything. As a global staff, you can add dashboards and charts and queries and all sorts of things. As a course staff member, you can view those things and you can add your own charts. And if we need to lock down those permissions even tighter, Superset's very granular, and so that's definitely something we could do, and we could also make it configurable per site. That's definitely a possibility. Are we going to make our own UI? We'd really like to not have to, but but if that's the way that it needs to be, then that's the way it needs to be. As Brian said, one of the coolest things about Superset is the ability to export and share your charts and dashboards and things. I want to keep that, but the current format for it is not necessarily too great for people to actually use, and so what I'd like to do is improve that upstream rather than building another layer on top of it. But whether or not that's something that's possible or doable or is tailorable to our needs, we will find out.
And if someone wanted to write an MFE for it, you could actually take the superset images, like the dashboard JavaScript, basically, and iframe it or stick it in various places. It's set up for that.
Yeah.
So. first.
I mean,
Yes, it's you.
we don't need a mic, so
Yep.
yeah, shout out.
No, just shout it out.
Question is, how are you querying the data? Are you accessing directly to the open databases, or are you doing
Andre.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hello?
Hey.
Okay. The question is, how are you accessing the data? Is it directly querying the OpenEDX databases, or are you doing some kind of extract and load and putting data somewhere else?
Do you want to answer this one? Sure. Yeah.
So Superset is directly accessing the ClickHouse data, which is the XAPI learning traces. And we have one report in here that's demographic data that shows the maps. That's actually Superset directly accessing a MySQL database just to show that we could. I don't suggest it, again. Don't mix your analytics with your transactional data, kids. It's not fun. But that's definitely a thing that can happen. So that's basically, you can do both. But for the most part, we're relying on the learning traces right now.
Felipe? Oh.
Just thinking in terms of the migration path, particularly for people who have long-term existing installations. You mentioned the kind of management command approach for being able to replay the tracking logs. I'm wondering what you're theorizing for being able to do kind of larger scale batch transformations of historical data into this new format.
Sure. I think, it depends a lot on the size of the data, like the size of your problem. The code's got to be open source. If you have a massive quantity of data and you want to read in a whole bucket from S3, you're not going to want to use a management command, but you could probably wrap all the code that Event Routing Backends does in another call and run it on a separate LMS server that does nothing but crunch that data for days in various processes. That would be my first order process. My second thing would be to say, if you have data from 2013, maybe don't import it. Like, if the course is done, we don't think a whole lot about data retention, but we probably should, and we should probably let some of this data die or archive off for a while.
I think that's actually all the time that we have. It's 3 o'clock. But thank you so much to Brian and Jill. And please tell them your data dreams and relentlessly harass them for the rest of the conference.